Hi, Becky. And, I am so excited to have you on this fireside chat. I was going through your bio, and what a storied career. I'm honored to, in fact, to talk to you today. For the audience, Becky has been a CIO and a CTO at various companies, including MGM Resorts International, Best Buy, PepsiCo, Wells Fargo. I mean, please name more if I have forgotten some. And she's one of the top 50 female CIOs and top 200 globally. So, Becky, welcome. Happy to get your perspectives and insights here.
Thank you for inviting me to talk to you today.
Absolutely. I want to capture those golden nuggets that we have been talking about. So it is so tell me about what excited you about what we were building. Uh, what are the problems it solves for you as a
I,
CIO? Yeah.
I mean, what I saw with what you've been building, and I'm really excited about what you have because I think it's nothing in the market compares to it. When you look at the role of the CIO, our world is about partnering with the business. You have to have a technical pedigree because you have to have that BS metric on to know, what's what and what's not. But you
Right.
also have to keep your eye on not only the operation, but that's the conundrum, right? Because how do you go faster? How do you drive business value for the business? Because IT is here as a guest of the business.
Yeah.
And if they're not getting it done for the business, then why are they here? So what does that really net to? What that nets to is you've got to keep driving innovation. Innovation is driven to, so you become the chief innovation officer. And you've got all kind of catchy titles out there, and chief digital officer, chief AI officer. If your CIO isn't stepping up to play all those roles, you have to ask yourself, why do you have that person there?
Exactly.
Because when you look at what I saw with InviGrid is what excited me about it is I want my developers to be able to go faster and put out
Yeah.
quality capability, which they do, but I also want them to be able to bring them whole self to the engagement. And part of what excites developers is working on the new and fun stuff. However, and I say that with a big comma, is there's the risk to the organization when you add new capability, and then things get stalled out in that process. You can't let that process stall you out. And so when you look at what your platform does, it builds in my security compliance. It builds in my automated provisioning for cloud provisioning so that I can get scale and a great experience, end user experience. It builds in my whole speed to market. I almost see it as an accelerant to CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous development, because I can put it into this sub-assembly, and that's the way I talk, as a piece of application into this major assembly called InviGrid, and all of a sudden I can speed to market new capability and not introduce unintended consequences of vulnerabilities because quite candidly, I can't see the complete workload, the complete workflow, nor do I want to stop the business because our job is to drive business value and revenue. And I've been blessed, as you said, I've worked for all the number one companies in their market. And when they've recruited me in, they're number one. And they take that very serious because when you're number one, there's only one direction to go. And the
Yeah.
only way you drive business value is to give them more capability. And you've got to keep your eye on the operation too. Optimizing the operation is table stakes. Security is table stakes. It has to happen, but it's not what we talk about in a boardroom. The boardroom is with them. What have you done for me lately? And you're only as good as your last delivery. So
You,
that's what I got excited about you in because I see something that I can put into this and go faster and let my developers do what they do, which is develop. And they're wild, it's the Wild West. But that's what you enjoy about them.
This is so fascinating because, it is difficult, and you brought this out so well because it is difficult to bring out amongst all the noise that is in the market with so many tools and solutions. So it's typical CIO dilemma, which way do we go? And the right signal is about how we support developers, right? The right metric is how we enable innovation. That what a fascinating nugget you're bringing up here. Because finally, as far as CIOs goes, as you said, they have to be partner with the business. They have to enable to them to scale. So specifically from a CIO perspective, one more another the CIO typical priorities, and 2025 there's a CIO journal as well that talks about all the 2025 priorities, and so many organizations laying them out. Let me take your thoughts on this as well. For 2025, apparently, in addition to improving, being agile, improving margins and reducing risk, it's innovation. The passwords for 2025 are innovation, AI. How can we forget that? Doubling down on cybersecurity because of AI as well, and digital transformation and modernization. And you and I have spoken about this a lot, but I think our audience would appreciate your thoughts on this as well. Yeah.
I mean, innovation, and what I love is everything's got an AI label on it now. And so what you're going to see, AI is not new. I've been involved in AI since probably 89 or something. And when I worked with Dr. Brink, when I was with Patel Memorial Institute, he was the founder of Natural Language Query. But what's interesting is you're going to see a lot of companies fall on their sword on AI. But when we're in the boardroom, we got to tell all of our shareholders, oh yeah, we're doing something with AI. And there's a smart way to do it, and there's a stupid way to do it. And you're going to see lots of stupid as part of the learning process. But what I think is so important is when you take, again, what you've developed, is there a way that I can smartly implement AI in core areas that don't blow up my business? None of us can afford to blow up our business. We got a business to run primary. So is there an opportunity? And I think there absolutely is, because you can create guide rails that make sense to drive that. And you're absolutely right. Innovation, back office optimization, data center optimization, AI, those are all priorities. But at the end of it, ask yourself why. Because at the end of the day, it's all about driving business value. And that's what the business. You can't wait for the business to ask for things, because a lot of times they don't know. And they've got so many salespeople rolling into them and telling them they've got the next coming. And I get the same thing as the CIO of corporations. Everybody's product is going to solve world hunger. And there is so much noise
Yeah.
that I don't have time to dig into each of this. So I always tell sales teams, this is important, Yogi. I tell sales teams, find out what my priorities are. Come
Right.
back to me and tell me why your product is going to advance my priorities in a
Right.
material way.
Right.
It's not, when you look at IT is, depending on the vertical, it's 5 to 6% of gross revenues.
Mm-hmm.
So what have you done for me lately, right? And so when you look at true transformation, 80% of that 5 or 6% is already spoken for in terms of license, labor, and maintenance. So real transformation is about reducing that 80% to something like 50 or 60. So you free up 40 or 50 for innovation. That's what true transformation is, because that's what the board manages you on. It
Right.
manages you on new capability to extend market share for your company. And a lot of CIOs take the easy path and go, they say all the buzzwords, security, AI,
Yeah.
innovation. But what are they doing day to day that's advancing that agenda, that's actually advancing that revenue line for the business versus the expense line? Because IT is always viewed as an expense line. How do you innovate if you're an expense line?
Yeah. Yeah, what an absolute I'm enjoying this conversation. I'm truly enjoying this conversation, and I'm sure our audience will love this conversation absolutely. So in order to reduce, I mean, and we talk about, we have worked with our customers and we show them how they can reduce, how they can bring in agility, not worry about infra and security, focus on innovation, be agile, drop their costs, because, now they can use a unified solution with guardrails instead of all these point solutions and stitching them together, and such a big chaos and confusion and siloed teams. And we talk about all of that, but where do you begin, right? With so many teams jostling for that small budget there. Where do we begin? Yeah.
The shiny nickel. They're always going after the shiny nickel. Same with business. They're always after the shiny nickel. AI is your new shiny nickel,
Like,
right?
correct.
So think about one of the things that's percolating in the background is the exorbitant costs of cloud, and
Yeah.
it's rising. And
Yes.
what's happened too is that from a developer's perspective, some of the new teams coming into the market didn't learn how to engineer solutions. They know how to work inside frameworks, but they never learned how to engineer a technology solution against the technology stack. And infrastructure has always been treated as if it's an infinite resource, and cloud is no different.
Exactly right.
And so what's happening is, and I say this to startups all the time too, is a bad design. You could all of a sudden, as a startup or even mid-size or Fortune 50 or whatever, all of a sudden you could end up with an answer, your app, which is fantastic. I'm not talking about yours. I'm talking about a new app to market.
Mm-hmm.
That all of a sudden cost you $100,000 a month to run because
Yeah.
it wasn't engineered across the stack. And
Yeah.
so one of the things that's important is being able to contain that provisioning cost of cloud. And multi-cloud is where we all want to be. We don't want to be captive to a particular cloud. There's a lot of reasons why you would never want to be captive to a particular cloud, but clouds themselves, all of the answers in the market today have certain specializations. It's not a one size fits all. So just imagine taking that provisioning out of the mix and being able to cost contain exactly what that particular application would cost you. That's a big deal. And so the answer to your direct question is tools, right? We've got all kinds of tools and we've got all kinds of applications. We never turn anything off. So, and if we never turn anything off and yet we've got to go faster to market with new capability, at some point IT is going to be so cost prohibitive to organizations to run. And then you're starting in this outsource, in-source, shared service argument all over again. And when I come in and transform companies, the first thing I look at is what do I want my IT organization to be core on? And the rest of the stuff I partner up with strategic partners. So for example, design and engineering is a core competency in my IT teams.
Yeah.
Factorizing the building of that particular, I can manufacture that any place. Business insight, intelligence about the information, that's a core competency.
Mm.
Provisioning for the cloud dynamically, cloud management and all that stuff, those are all in my mind important essentials, but they're not core to the IT team. It has to be the stuff that doesn't commoditize IT that needs to be core to the business. And then get your experts, your strategic partners, like what you've done within the crowd, InviGrid. You know, that's an expert in terms of how you encapsulate a piece of code that handles all the rest of the back office handling relative to security, provisioning, regulatory compliance, all those things, those business, because when the bigger your organization is, it's difficult to know how to apply a lot of the security guidelines. As soon as you publish them, they're dated because new risks are introduced. That's impossible to keep up with
Right.
the bigger you get. And so I see this as an opportunity. It's like data sets. You know, do you build all your own data sets or do you take different models and be able to teach them? And that's what AI is going to teach a lot of people. Get the models, but models have to be trained. They're not acceptable. You know, the hallucination and all things that are natural byproducts of a generic model that's not been tailored to your organization. And I look at what you have as a big model too, that needs to be poignant to what any particular organization wants to accomplish. That's just my observation.
Oh my goodness, that's brilliant. Like making the entire provisioning process, the security, the infrastructure, the cloud management, just like your foundational layer, it's there, it's seamless, and no matter what innovation you are doing, right, whether related to AI or the next cool thing that your company wants to do and you want to support that for the business, this layer just is there to keep you, from falling apart, from keeping your margins, tight, or improving your margins basically, because it's just seamlessly done, effortlessly done. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Becky. That's just, yeah.
What excited me about what you have is I don't have to think about that, right?
Yeah,
Because I've got so many fits and starts going on where, you know, all of my smart people are coming up with ideas and stuff. Some of that stuff their time is focused on is a waste of their talent. I want them to be
exactly.
focused on the stuff that's material to the business, which is done in a way that doesn't blow up the business. We don't have the benefit of coming in and blowing up the business. The business is paramount.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Every time I speak with you, you put these thing, what's going on in my mind in such amazing, beautiful words like why, so what, right? So
It's always a so what, I mean, like I said to you before, you don't realize, we get on average probably 5 to 8,000 emails a day,
Right.
people pushing their products and stuff. Yeah, think about that, 5,000 to 8,000 emails a day.
My
Who is going to clean through all that?
my goodness.
And everybody's using the same terminology. There's so much noise. You use the term noise, and that's what I call it. And
Yeah.
that's why I tell sales teams, find out what's top of mind for me, what I care about. And it's not, and everybody's got these grand labels, innovation, AI, business intelligence, pick them all. Those are big, broad categories.
Right.
So what? What materially in each of these categories are you trying to accomplish for your business? Do the due diligence and
Yeah.
then come back and tell me why your product's going to solve that. And that's a lot of times sales teams don't want to do that, right? Because they're clipping coupons. They just want to sell. They don't want to have to learn their audience to have a conversation with Becky. They want to have a conversation generic, and that's where all these stupid emails come from, or these stupid texts. I mean, there's just so much noise. You're just like, stop it already. I don't have time. I've got a company to run.
Right.
My teams are 20, 30, 40,000 people on average. Think about that. That's global, right? It's
Yeah.
in the companies I've led, that's the size of those teams. And each of them have, you've got your infrastructure management, your architecture, your data intelligence, your infrastructure management, your, field services, all those attributes, call centers, and that's important because that keeps the brand alive and relevant. And risk management is nothing trivial.
Yeah.
And brand, the risk no one ever talks about is one of the paramount ones, which is reputation risk.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Companies don't make it back from reputation risk. And when there's a breach or a ransomware attack, and I can tell you in the companies I've led, that would have never happened, those ransomware attacks. And I love saying that because then everybody looks at you as a bullseye and says, okay, find out where she is now.
Ah, that's, yeah, I am sure, Becky. I mean, just what I'm hearing from you about how to support innovation for the business by making sure that the fundamentals are strong, right? And that's what
And
that's
adaptive though, Yogi,
and
because
adapt. Correct.
it's like publishing. Once you publish, it's outdated, right? So that's what happens with a lot of security
Yeah.
rules and stuff that you put at the endpoints and all that stuff. How long does it take? When you look at that, the breaches that have happened, and it'll be stuff like, which is really not trivial, but patch management. Patch management, right? Think about it. You're kind of looking at, because you got a small company, you're kind of going, well, why is that a complex thing? Okay, well, when you have, just after Y2K as an example, the company I was with when we were planning for Y2K, we had 300,000 surviving databases. Just think about that for a moment.
Wow.
300,000 surviving databases. So just imagine all the server farms and all the sprawl and stuff. So that's how patch management is not a trivial matter. And so those are all on ramps. Anytime you have an endpoint in a network, you've got
Yeah.
opportunity for breach. And some of these recent attacks have caused, because from an endpoint perspective, they're out of date. And
Yeah.
so when you think about, you can write the rules once inside of your platform, so to speak, and update that platform
Hmm.
and, and pervasively put it out where it belongs. That's an important statement. And then can I turn other tools off? Why not? Because
Yeah.
security's biggest challenge is it was never approached from a systems perspective. It's exactly like you said. I've got this for identity access management. I've got this for endpoint detection. I've got this for vulnerability testing. This is a hodgepodge of tools that don't play together. The only people that benefit in trying to make these tools work together is I consider it a systems integrator annuity program.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Another new term for me, Becky. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah. So I love the way you put these things, and it is. uh, I mean, any final takeaways? Any final takeaways for our audience? The CIOs, the other CIOs and CISOs who are probably listening. Um,
Big thing is, what drew me to technology years and years ago was the fact that no 2 days are alike. And I love that about it. There's no 2 days are like it. You don't walk in and go, oh my God, it's the same day. It's just it's the same thing. It's just a different day. That's not the way IT is. IT is a continuum of moving capabilities. And from a leadership perspective, what I care about is the team, right? How do you constantly give the team the opportunity to be hugely successful and bring their whole self to the organization? And to me, that's the role of the CIO, because they're an executive. We're CX. We're in the boardroom, right? We're not talking about colors of servers. We're in there talking about how do you move organizations forward? How do you strike the right balance with capability, mitigating risk, and driving institutionalizing innovation into all layers of the operating fabric of the company? And so, that's where I think the CIO needs to focus. But it's not about Becky or an individual. It's the team that makes it happen. And I've always felt like I build high performing teams. And here's my definition for a high performing team. They see a gap, they close a gap. It's not you dictating, go do this. It's they care so much. They're so into the role they play in the company. It doesn't feel like a job to them. They see an opportunity and they close the gap. And that's what's so cornerstone. That's a high performing team. And I would tell you, the people that have worked for me over the years would go wherever I am. And if you go into the companies I've been at, they're still running the same playbooks. And why? Because it's not priority du jour. It's about driving business value and partnering with the business. But you have to have a pedigree in technology to be able to, accomplish that. So it's therefore it implies you must be a lifetime learner, because you need to stay ahead of all this new development so that you can figure out how to apply it effectively. Like we talked about AI, how to apply it effectively to help your business rather than them go out looking for another shiny nickel. And I tell my business partners all the time, just because it's in a PowerPoint presentation doesn't mean it compiles.
Yeah.
The technology probably doesn't scale in most cases, but oh my God, that salesperson sure did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fundamentals that you're talking about, Becky. I mean, I have worked as a head of security and worked with many different CIOs, and even as an advisor with Ernst& Young and other, and worked with many, many different CIOs in both capacities, operation as well as advisory. And I can tell you, I mean, the way you're bringing out about how CIOs support business and how they are the partners and how it's absolutely amazing. You are incredible, and you're one of the top CIOs that I have come across. So it was absolutely a fun conversation bringing you in here. My pleasure to speak with you
Thank
today.
you, Yogi. And I support what you're doing. I think it's phenomenal. I'd invite the audience to take a deeper look. And I'm not a sales type. I come from the perspective of would I buy it? And I would buy it. And how I would implement something like what you have is I wouldn't eat the elephant in one bite. That's a stupid move. But I would take one of my areas that I could apply this to, kick the tires on it, fully vet it, and then expand it out if it met my needs, and I'm sure it would. So that's how I do everything with innovation. And I don't, you don't have to have 3 letters next to your name before I'll look at it. There's a lot of fantastic innovation happening in these smaller companies, and part of the role of the CIO is how do you find safe harbor ways to kick the tires on that stuff, because that's how the company is going to get bigger and better in terms of the brand you represent. I'm talking about me as the officer of a company, because there's the new capabilities being addressed or focused in specific areas. And why leave that talent and capability? You're doing a disservice to the company you lead.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's again, for that and for all the brilliant nuggets in this fireside chat. For the audience listening, I'm going to summarize this as well and put it out there. This was amazing. I hope this helps with your with the priorities for the CIOs and the CTOs listening. I hope it helps with your priorities for the year 2025. So thank
Thank
you.
you, Yogi. Bye.
Bye.